I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Man Listen Show. Go to YouTube, click that bell icon so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and make sure you tell everybody about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Marv B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, just me and Erika today. You know, shout out to Lab and shout out to C. But did you see where the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, they gave Stephen A. Smith a thumbs down award? Did you see that?
I did.
So they gave him a thumbs down award based on his recent track record of denigrating Black women. He's got a lot of vitriol and fire for Black women, in particular, Jasmine Crockett, Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, and First Lady Michelle Obama. So they called him out about it, right? Mm-hmm. So this dude, in response, goes on Sean Hannity, Fox News Sean Hannity show to defend himself. And he goes on a whole, this is what I did for NABJ. This is what I do for HBCUs. This is what I do, blah, 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 blah. But he is so oblivious as to why they gave him a thumbs down award, and to even go on Sean Hannity, who a lot of people suspect is a racist white journalist, suspect, because we can't say for sure. But you go on that show to try to explain yourself. The lack of self-awareness is mind-numbing. So I'm going to ask you this. Was the NABJ fair in giving him this thumbs down award? Because I guess in the past they've really only given it to organizations like news organizations, or maybe government entities or something like that. And there's only been 3 individuals who's received this I can't call it an award, but they received this thumbs down award. Were they out of line? And do you think his response was justified?
I don't know about out of line. It just seems like childish to me. I can't imagine sitting around being like, who are we giving this thumbs down award to? And it's just like, I don't know. It just seems real petty and unnecessary to me. Like, who don't we like the most? It's very high school. But I mean, I think their choice is valid. Obviously, they have a lot of support for making that decision. And, Stephen A. Smith, I think that he prides himself on the controversy at this point. I think he likes the attention of being at the forefront of controversy and being, kind of this token Black dude that aggravates us and that they get to tote out whenever they want to. I think he's found his home in that space. Maybe he's, from PWI schools, he's used to that space and he likes it. So he's comfortable there or whatever.
He went to HBCU. He went to Winston-Salem State. So he went to
like high school.
Well, I don't know about that either. He's from New York. I don't know what part of New York, but I just, I'm gonna be fair to him. I don't think he's dealt in white space. He's dealing in white spaces now, and he's playing a game that obviously has been successful for him. He's, I think he's got a contract for over $100 million, and more than likely, based off of the contract they gave Pat, I think it was Pat McAfee. The next time Stephen A. Smith comes up for contract, if he doesn't mess it up, he'll probably get super paid again. But it's just like, with Charlemagne, Charlemagne the God, or Leonard, you say things that benefit the machine, meaning you put black people in their place, quote unquote, or you say the things that white people want to say about black people, but they really can't get away with it because they don't have melanin, it can be very lucrative. And you can see that with Stephen A. Smith. You can see it with like the Jason Whitlocks of the world. And I think that the award was apropos. Now, I don't know if they necessarily wanted it out on the internet like that. You know, it looks like somebody took a video of it at the gala. It looks like it was at the gala, whatever, and they took a video of it and then put it out on the internet. But the one thing that I'm glad that the NABJ is doing is they standing on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they may not have wanted it out like that, but they standing on it because it fits.
Yeah. And obviously he went on Sean Hannity because he doesn't want to be asked the hard questions. He doesn't want to have the difficult conversations. He doesn't want to actually be asked real questions and get the pushback or even get involved in the conversations that could actually, you know what I mean, maybe smooth things over a little bit with the black community because he could have chosen a different platform. He could even went with Charlemagne and gotten a little bit harder questions than on Sean Hannity, but I don't know. He made his choices, like you said, and I can't even hardly take him serious anymore once I found out on last week tonight that he's been on soap operas for like the last 10 years. So I can't even take him seriously anymore anyway. So
Now, see, okay. Now you done made me defend this dude twice.
yes, go ahead.
I don't have an issue with that.
I
Um,
just think it's funny.
I think we are allowed to be who we want to be, no matter what that is. You
Mhm.
know, that's, because if we do that, then it says, okay, you're an attorney. What are you doing trying to write books? What are you trying to do about writing fiction books that don't really deal with the law? Who are you to say this? Um, I actually kind of think it's dope that he got into, the soap opera space. Like he grew up being a big fan. I think it was
Mhm.
like Days of Our Lives or something like that. So I think it's kind of dope that he was able to transition into doing that. But that doesn't alleviate the fuckery that he does, especially when it comes to black women. You know, Trump called him like low IQ, couple other things, basically saying, you are a dumbass. And you say, well, that's just the president, it's not that big a deal. But then you take every opportunity on your
Mhm.
platform to go after black women. You take every opportunity to be extra hard on black athletes, and we don't really see you do the same to non-black athletes. And I don't there's a certain segment of black people, especially those gatekeeping Negroes, that they feel as if it's their job to hold black people to a higher standard because we have to get white approval. And I need you to be two times as good as the others. So by me holding you to this higher level of accountability, I'm doing a good service to the black race. And it's
Mhm.
all bullshit because really what you're doing is trying to make it seem as if you're the good Negro for white folks so that you can continue to get paid, you can continue to get promoted, you can continue to get access to the things that comes with being closer to white folks. And I see right through it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. When you start acting like that, you start acting like you and what you believe and how you move is the standard, and everybody else should be moving in accordance with how you do or how you think. And then, like you said, holding us to a, we got to be better than and all this. But then, who gets to define what's better than? Who gets to define what's the good Negro? And he thinks that he's able to put himself in that position to decide what that is. And I don't think that that's my point. Like, I can't take you seriously if you're trying to hold people into this niche that you created, and now we all got to live up to this standard that you think we should be living up to, or that the machine thinks that we should be living up to. But then you get to do whatever it is that you want to do and be whoever it is you want to be, and then we either got to be that in accordance with that, or we got to get criticized, especially Black women, because it's like, oh, you can't speak like this, can't dress like this, can't act like this, can't look like this, or else it's not in conformity with what we think we're supposed to be perpetuating in this society. And then once you do that, once you start trying to make us all the same, then you take away our individuality and our creativity. And that's the whole point of being Black, is that we're at the forefront of everything. That's like great, because we have so much creativity, we have so many differences that make us great, and adds to the spark of this whole life experience. But he doesn't have that much spark.
Yeah. And I mean, I saw some people that said they thought it was petty on the NABJ's part. They said, okay, what does it actually benefit? And they called out the NABJ because you remember the NABJ, they had Trump on there, and Trump acted a complete ass. Yeah, during the election season, he's running against, they brought him on. And I saw on threads where somebody highlighted where, okay, yes, the NABJ did do this, but you have to recognize that that was a different board that made that decision. This is a new board that has totally different ideas, that has a totally different direction that they want to take the organization in. And, I'm not one of those people that says, okay, because you did something wrong, unless it's just totally egregious, that because you may have made a misstep here, that you can't have a voice about something else. Like there's some people who, the mistake that you made, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. Dr. Eddie Glaude, don't nobody want to hear what he got to say. You see what it got us, right? So when he when he gets on TV and starts crying and doing all this stuff about the condition that the United States is in because of Trump, don't nobody want to hear what you got to say. When you are a Stephen A. Smith who repeatedly goes after Black people, in particular Black women, in a much more forceful way than you do anybody else, you put yourself in a position where nobody wants to hear what the hell you got to say, And at the end of the day, yes, you could be more well-rounded than just what you are focused on, right? He's a sportscaster.
Right.
But now ESPN, I mean, he started off, his real claim to fame was basketball. He was a basketball insider. He started in Philadelphia. Well, I think that's where he really became known. I'm sure he started in other, small municipalities, but he was in Philadelphia. He was with the 76ers. He was with that news organization. And then that parlayed to him getting into ESPN. But basketball was where his primary focus was. Now they got him doing football. They'll have him doing baseball. They even try to throw him into boxing. Right. And if people are like, oh, what do you really know other than you giving your opinion like somebody else about the situation? And I think all of that went to his head because he had his own podcast now where he can say what he wants on his own platform. And a lot of it is about politics that don't nobody want to hear about. And it even got to the point where he thought he could really run for president. You remember when he was saying that, hey, I'm considering putting my name in the hat.
Yeah. I think that's one of the problems today with people who have a platform. Instead of using that platform to expound on their expertise, they just start branching out into just talking about whatever it is they want to talk about. And I mean, that's the thing. Like you're saying, you could be wrong or misstep about a topic and still be an expert on basketball or whatever it is you're supposed to be talking about, and then veer back into your area of expertise. Like, I mean, I can sit here and talk about the law all day long and then be wrong about something that has to do with sports, but you also got to admit when you're wrong, or when you're out of your depth, or when you don't have, the background or the, education to really get into a deep conversation about some things. I have an opinion, but this opinion is unsupported because I haven't done the research, I haven't done the work, I haven't done all the things that I've done in this level, in this area of expertise that I have. But we have all these people out here, influencers and whoever else with microphones, who just get to sit up here and tell people what their opinions are. But it just be when you get to a certain level, I think it comes with a certain level of responsibility to make sure that people know that, hey, this is just my personal opinion. This isn't supported by facts, research, or anything like that. And he doesn't do that. And then instead he doubles down on being loud and wrong and calling out people just because it gets that media attention. That's what I say. I think he's an attention whore. I think he just likes the controversy. I think he likes the being in the headlines or whatever. However he made it there, he still at this point should be talking about basketball, but instead he's talking about politics and all this other stuff. And that's another problem with Trump. Trump's goofy ass got it so to everybody thinks they could be president now. Like, you have no political background. You have no negotiation skills with foreign dignitaries. You don't know anything about what's going on in these other countries or how to, you don't even know where the Strait of Hormuz is on the dang map or whatever, but you think you could be president of the United States. And he's just giving all of these people these ideas of grandeur. And now we got a bunch of idiots thinking they can run the world. And that is where we are today in America.
So speaking of not knowing foreign politics, Lindsey Graham, he passed away, and they put his sister up to run to take his spot, right, to fill the seat. So they asked her about, a question about foreign policy, and she was stumped. She said, I really don't know anything about that. I'm paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to Trump, he had a lot of candidates that he endorsed. None of them won. So it's starting to look like his power over the Republican Party, his power, his political power, overall is waning. A lot of people look at his health and how he looks like trash, right? John Ossoff, the senator from Georgia, ethered that dude. He went out and he said, hey, listen, we're trying to do these things. And Trump wants to fly with Natalie Harp. This is a young white girl. That's a lot of people say it's like Trump's nurse, but it's his close assistant or whatever. She walks around with this printer and printing stuff out for him. And she feels she's there to filter information for him. And like, dude, we really have a president that has to have this young white broad filter information for him? Like, come on, man. It's getting really sad out here.
Yeah, we could have a competency conversation, but we're not going to do that because they have the House. They have the numbers.
Well, and that's one thing I want to talk about as well. There's a lot of primaries that have been going on, and down in Florida, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she won the primary on the Democratic ticket for South Florida, right? She was running against Uncle Luther Campbell, Luther Campbell, and three other Black candidates. And when you looked at the numbers, you look and you see, first of all, people had a problem with her running anyway because she ended up running for that seat because of the political gerrymandering. So she was like, okay, I'm going to come run down here. And a lot of people had a problem with that. But then you look and you see four Black candidates. I think it was three Black men, one Black woman, and they basically split the vote all the way down the line. Had they been able to come together and just had one candidate, we would have had a Black representative on the Democratic ticket. And for me, I just don't understand why so many of us don't get that. Listen, we're much stronger when we're together. And clearly, a lot of these people are paid to get in and be disruptive, to steal away votes from a candidate. They know they have no real opportunity to win. Like, Luke may be well regarded in the community. He may have changed his persona somewhat, but I really don't think Luke ever had a chance of winning. I just don't. Right?
He could have threw his money behind somebody.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily believe that Luke was one of those people that was trying to harm other candidates, right? He probably just had the hubris to think like, I really can't win, and he came in dead last.
Yeah, of course. He has no political skills. I don't know why people keep forgetting that part. You have to actually be qualified for the job. It's a job.
Well, like you said, Trump ain't.
No, he's not. That's why other people are so confused. But that happened here in St. Louis.
You
Black
see,
candidates put
I didn't want to call y'all out. I didn't want to call y'all out, but you know, y'all St. Louis is good for that. Y'all did
right.
that with Tashara, Mayor Tashara, when she first ran. And
Mhm.
I can't remember the black man that ran against her, but they, split the vote. And you end up, who was the white person that won that election? It was a white lady that beat Tashara the first time.
I don't know about the first time.
Okay. It was a
I
white
got you.
lady. But then, they seemed like they got the
Got it together.
got the point. And when she ran the second time, she was able to win. Right. And
Hmm.
then the next time she ran, she ended up losing again. But St. Louis has a real bad habit of doing that. And
Yeah.
I've even seen where they've had community forums where people have asked them, like, why are y'all doing this? Why are you splitting the vote? Can there be some sort of agreement that's made? And I don't know if I'm in that position, if I'm the person that wants to say, well, like, well, why has it got to be me? Why I got to be the one to step down? Why ain't you asking them to step down? I feel like I'm a good candidate.
I mean, yes and no. But we could also sit in a room and determine who really is the better candidate. And I'm all for having debates and letting people decide. But if we're not actually going to sit here and support a candidate that's going to win, then what are we doing? But this is why we keep losing. That's why St. Louis is the way it is. It's why it has 83 dang municipalities and municipal judges and mayors and all these people trying to hold on to this sliver of power as opposed to just getting together and really actually having some power and some say so in this state. But St. Louis is too small minded. Most people are too small minded because I don't think it's like when the one of my favorite judges he wanted me to run and be the first black judge in St. Charles County. I was like, stop it. He was like, yeah. I was like, all I got to do is pretend to be Republican, pretend to be Christian, and pretend to be married. I was like, sir, so you want me to basically just get up here and lie in everybody's face? But that's what they do. That's how
No,
they
no, no,
win.
for sure.
They
I got a friend that's in the southern state. I ain't gonna say because I don't want to put her business out, but basically they were like, look, so you would be a shoe in.
Mhm.
Your passion for the community, your knowledge about what the people need, like we could get you elected, but you've been a registered Republican all this time, not a
Mhm.
MAGA, but a Republican. We need you to say that you're a Democrat so we can put this money behind you. And she was just like, how do I do that when people know me in the community? They know I'm a Republican. What
Mhm.
about my morals? What about my word? And they just like, well, listen, if you're gonna run on the Republican ticket, you can't get this money. You're gonna have to do
Right.
something. And she chose not to.
It's a choice. But I was like, it's going to take people 5 seconds and maybe one or two episodes of the Man Listen show to understand that I'm not any of those things. I was like, all of this is going to unravel very quickly. And I just don't want to do it. Like, I have no desire to be in the public eye. But I also think that with that same vein, they do that. The Republicans do that. And, politicians, they'll play a role that is the winning role just to get to where they want to be. And we as community members have to be able to spot people who are really community advocates and people who are just playing a role to get the win. And then make sure that that candidate is the one that we all put our support behind and put our pressure on the other people to drop out. But we don't have enough, and I'm going to keep talking about this, but we don't have enough voter education on the front end so that people know who these people actually are. Like, who has time to sit and watch a councilman debate to see who's the councilman and stuff like that, or what they're doing and what their contribution is, and if they're really qualified and stuff like that? Most people don't.
Well, I think that Roland Martin had a wonderful idea. And he said, hey, listen, look at the D9 organizations. We can take each D9 organization and say, hey, listen, you have council meetings, they're usually like twice a month, once a month, or whatever. Each organization has a week that they are assigned to send representatives to attend that meeting. And here are the agenda items they're to talk about, and they're to take notes and bring it back so that we know what's going on. It's easy for us to get organized if people buy in and they have the knowledge and awareness that, listen, local politics determines your day-to-day living.
Yeah.
Your local politics determines your day-to-day living. So it goes back to what you always talked about and what we have started talking about because of you is how do we increase the voter knowledge and awareness that every single election matters. I saw something on social media and it was really sad and infuriating at the same time. There was this middle-aged dude, probably my age, right? 40s, maybe early 50s. He was at the Luther Campbell election party. And when they asked him, who did you vote for? He said, I didn't vote. And they were like, so
What?
you're here at the election party, but you didn't vote? And he said, well, maybe I just don't have enough knowledge about how things work, but no, I didn't vote. And like he kept using terminology, and the lady was like, so you don't, he was like, we are only conditioned to vote for the presidential election every 4 years. These other elections, I don't really know about. And the lady had a question, said, you mean midterm elections? He was like, yeah, is that what it was called? And I was like, bro, why did you even do that interview? Because you made yourself look so foolish. And I try not to be too hard on folks, but that was just infuriating. You were at an election night party for a candidate and you didn't even go vote.
But that's the polls.
And then he was good and grown. So we talk about how these young people don't have the knowledge. There's some of these grown folks our age that need this knowledge.
Oh no, I'm talking about everybody. That's the point. I represent these people every day. They have no idea what's going on in the world today. But when you're so consumed with surviving, all of these other details are easy to, get lost in the shuffle. And that you don't realize that you're in survival mode because you're not paying attention to these details. They don't understand how one influences the other, and they won't understand that until somebody explains it to them. But
And
that is good people.
and I don't know where we lost our way when it comes to education.
Um,
Because I look
I
back at old documentaries and you look at how, especially down in the South, where they would basically have black people like, listen, yo, I mean, you ain't gotta go to school. You need to be out here working this field, right? So whether you got an education or not, it really didn't matter. And our ancestors, our elders recognized, nah, you need to have knowledge. You need to know them books, like they used to say, because that's the
Mhm.
only way that we could beat these white folks. And it's all by design. So when you dumb down the electorate, when you dumb down these kids, shout out to George W. Bush that, no child left behind. You got teachers saying, hey, listen, in order to keep my job, these kids got to pass these tests at a certain rate, but I'm not teaching them anything. I'm just teaching them how to pass this test. So all we're
That's
doing is preparing them for a test. So that way I don't lose my job. So now what are we seeing? We're seeing these young adults who weren't really taught anything, right? These COVID babies are going to be something else when it comes time for them, especially them ones that was like in middle school, fifth, sixth grade when the pandemic hit. They about to be young adults here pretty soon, right? If they probably 18, 19 now, right?
right. Yep.
So that is all intentional. So I hear what you're saying. My whole point is I hear what you're saying because there's a lot of people out there that we got to find a way to try to reach them, and we got to meet them where they're at. I don't want to be too hard on that man. I really would like to be like, okay, brother, this is an opportunity for us to say, hey, listen, let us educate you. And now you got a story. So instead of being the punchline, now you could be like, okay, you remember when they had me on the news and I was saying this? Now I'm out here bringing people in so they have more awareness, and I'm bringing people to vote. And it's my hope that somebody reaches out to him, but only, me and you, there's only so many of us. We can't reach everybody. But that's how I would handle that. But I'm like, damn, dude, they really played you by putting you on the media like that. That was terrible.
I mean, yes and no, because they probably interviewed several people and at Uncle Luke's party. They probably just heard Uncle Luke was having a party and went. So that was the right platform to find people who are less educated about the vote and whatnot. But who was that said a child educated only at school is an uneducated child? I
Mhm.
mean, I think that that's the truth because we lost at a certain point, we lost control over our children's education and we left it completely in the hands of the oppressor. And they couldn't wait to do nothing and just shuffle our kids along right from the school to prison pipeline because that's all they want us to be able to do, be educated enough to understand when the bell ring it's time to get up. That's it. But I mean, at a certain point, we have to take it back. Like you said, now that man has a testimony, he can possibly learn more and go out and be an advocate in his community, hopefully. Um, but we all have an opportunity to reach, the different people that we talk to. And like you said, we got these COVID babies, and sometimes I'll be like, something will happen in the news or something. I'll be like, do you know anything about this topic? Have you heard about this? You be on TikTok all day long. What does the TikTok land say about this, whatever? And sometimes she'll know about it, and sometimes she won't. But then it gives me an opportunity to, expound on it, maybe have these conversations that we wouldn't necessarily normally have because I don't necessarily just sit around and talk politics with my teenager all day long. Um, but this was her first time voting this year. So they send the sample ballot. And so we went and we sat down and we went through each candidate and each initiative and talked about it and decided, which way we wanted to vote, whatever, whatever. And then we went and voted. But it was just like the entire experience for her looking through the candidates, trying to decide what was going on, what amendments she wanted to vote for and stuff was just a new experience for her. And then even with that, when we went to go vote, she was just like, I thought it takes all day to vote. I said, not in our neighborhood. And she was like, what you mean? I was like, not in white neighborhoods. And that's by design. It's never taken me longer than 5 minutes to vote. Now out in the county and all the other places. And when I lived in Atlanta, baby, I was in line for ever
Yeah,
with babies forever.
yeah.
5 minutes out here, in and out, never a line.
And they
Thanks.
know. I mean, and listen, everything is by design.
Yeah.
So when you're not making as much as your white counterparts, what happens? You have to work more hours.
More
Work
jobs.
when you work more hours or more than one job, you got less time with your children to educate them at home,
Mm-hmm.
right? We saw that back in the day in Chicago. In Chicago, when they were when Black people were trying to get homes, and instead of being able to get straight up mortgages, they were suckered into these lease programs where it's like, listen, you got to pay every month on the month. If you miss one payment, if you late with one payment, we're kicking you out. You don't get none of your money back. So what was happening was you got parents who both are working two jobs, so the kids are left to fend for themselves. It's all by design. Those
Yep.
Black neighborhoods, those lines are extra long because there aren't enough polling districts. It's all by design. So when they saw Texas was getting close, when they saw Texas was like, wait a minute, Texas might be in play. And they look at, okay, Houston, black ass city. People can run, they can drive up, drop off their vote. They said, nah, they did everything that they could to reduce the ways that people could vote in Houston because they know Houston, a black ass city, Houston, if people come out to vote, which they haven't been, shout out to Houston, we need you to do better. They can actually turn this thing because we can't depend on these Mexicans. I don't care what nobody say. These Latinos, we can't depend on them. Now, the true test is going to be here in Texas. You have an Hispanic woman running against Governor Hot Wheels. Now, if these Mexicans don't come out and vote for her, we can't ever count on them. But it ain't just them.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, we got to come out.
Yes.
Talarico finally got the word. You remember he was like, he started going, I think he went on the Breakfast Club. He started saying, like, man, listen, y'all being too hard on Jasmine. And, I don't really support, how people are condemning her. And then what did he do a couple of days ago? He went to Wheeler Avenue. He was at the Black Church, the old school playbook that they do, right? He goes in there, he's singing, this little light of mine. He doing all that stuff. And people was like, look at this. And I'm like, well, he got to do it. He got to
Yeah.
get Black people out. Now, I don't like all the shucking and jiving, that the black folks were doing because he was sitting there in the pew. But anything that we can do to get people out to vote so that we
Yeah.
can try to get it out of the Republicans' hands, we got to do it.
Gotta motivate them somehow. And you gotta meet people where they are. And if that's where they are, if they at church, then that's what we gotta do.
Because what's the church? The church is organized,
Mhm.
right? They get people out. That's why they attacked the church in North Carolina when they had them souls to the polls. No, y'all can't vote on Sunday. Y'all can't vote on Sunday. Because the pastors was like, look, hey, we're gonna let church out early. We all gonna go vote.
Yeah.
Oh, you
They're
got all
like,
these HBCUs in North Carolina? We're gonna take away, we're gonna take them polls off those campuses.
yeah.
My very first vote, I voted for William Jefferson Clinton on the campus of University of Missouri. And
My first vote.
when I tell you it was at the Baptist Student Center, remember the Baptist Student Center, uh, and I tell you, it probably took me 5 minutes, if that, to vote.
Yeah. Mizzou was the first place I voted to, obviously, much later.
You know, Missoula, lily white ass university. So of course they had no problem with voting there. But
Yeah.
down the road, down in Lincoln at the HBCU, it wasn't the same experience.
Mhm. Found the time.
Listen, so we're gonna keep doing what we can do, man, to try to spread the awareness. Stephen A. Smith, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if you can redeem yourself, but I was gonna call him Black Man, but I even feel weird about doing that. But hopefully you can take your platform and turn it to something positive, because anything that you can do something destructive, you can also do something constructive. And instead of platforming these dudes like Officer Tatum and these other sellouts, why don't you decide to platform people that can do the things that we're talking about? You like to wax poetic about how you promoted HBCUs and how you're bringing Sports Center to HBCUs, and you're going to be showing HBCU games on TV. You're working out a deal for that. I can extrapolate and say, okay, listen, if they get into TV ad money to these HBCUs, they can reinvest in the schools and that'll benefit Black students, right? But it's much bigger than just the sports. We need
Yeah.
somebody to say, okay, why are you taking away the polling precincts from these HBCUs? Call out the folks that are really doing harm to Black people. It's not your job to lecture and wag your finger at Black people, especially not Black women. So if you don't want to get the thumbs down, cut out what you're doing and use that platform, use that power that you work to get for the benefit of our community. So maybe next year you'll get the thumbs up.
At least try. At
And with
least try.
that, I think we talked about it enough. Shout out to C, shout out to Lab. Make sure you go to our Facebook and our Instagram and follow us. Go to that link in our bio. You can buy some of our merchandise. You can donate to the show. We got a donation last week. You know what I'm saying? You can donate to the show. You can donate to the show. You can donate to the show. And go to our YouTube, click that bell icon, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know if you agree. Let us know if you disagree. And we'll catch you next time. Peace. Shout out to C.